It's so great to be here. Thank you so much to everyone who came. This is like a total shock that people who aren't related to me are here today. So I thank you all so much. So we're here today to celebrate the launch and release of my third book, which, as most of you know by now, is called 50 Ways to Wear Accessories. And it just came out a little less than a month ago. So today I'm going to be talking about 50 ways to accessorize for fall, having fun with your wardrobe's most magical pieces. And as John kindly mentioned before, I am the author of 3 books of the 50 Ways series: 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf, 50 Ways to Wear Denim, and 50 Ways to Wear Accessories. And my goal here today with this talk is to first give you a little bit of background about how accessories actually relate to us and tell us a story about our culture. Second is to give you a very exclusive behind-the-scenes look of the making of this book. And last but not least is to show you some of my favorite ways to accessorize for fall. So without further ado, first thing about accessories, when I began to research this book, is that I realized that accessories are a universal language. And what I mean by that is that you could be in a foreign country, you could be wearing a scarf, a stranger who doesn't speak the same language as you can come up to you, and suddenly you speak the same language, which is this language of appreciation. You could have a fabulous pair of sunglasses on and you might not even know how to communicate with another person, but once you have these sunglasses on, there is this bridge of connection. And especially too in this day and age, I think we're all looking for means of connecting with one another. We live in so much divided territory, and accessories can be this bridge of connection for us to start to connect with one another. And in the span of one afternoon while I was working on this book, I was actually still living in Washington, D.C. at the time before I moved back into Ann Arbor. And in one afternoon, I made a new friend because we complimented one another's scarves as we were riding the elevator to go to the metro. I saw a new perspective on a topic I thought I knew everything about when I started talking to someone about our shared appreciation of our watches. And I ended up talking about God with a stranger because he complimented the shoes that you see pictured here. So those are just, it was like one of those magical days where I was like, oh, I guess I have the introduction of my book written here, like this is all happening at once, thank you, universe. Secondly, accessories are philosophically intriguing. And what do I mean by that? Well, the more I began to research accessories, the more I began to recognize that accessories are something that says a lot about who we are as human beings. And from the beginning of time, as long as we have been humans walking this earth, we have been adorning ourselves with things that give us special powers. I think because accessories are not, like a pair of pants that you have to wear or a jacket that keeps you warm from the cold. They're sort of just this method of adornment. And because they are extraneous, so to speak, they're something that we reach for that not only connects us to other people, but it also connects us to the unknown, to a greater power. We might wear an amulet as something as protection. We might have a bracelet that we always have on. We might have a lucky charm that brings us good luck whenever we wear it. And we have to ask ourselves, why is it that we wear these things? Why is it that a ring on your third finger is what tells you that you're married? Why is it that you have to be wearing a nice purse to go to a job interview? And so these are 4 accessories. I truly do believe that of all of the things we put on our body, nothing tells a story about who we are inside, what our inner passions are, what our inner desires are, like the accessory. Oh, something happened while I was editing this. That's not supposed to say 7. It's supposed to say history through reinvention. But 7 is cool too, I guess. Accessories can tell a story of our history as humans, and this is, I think, a really incredible thing. You could be talking about the return of the 90s era choker trend, which some of us maybe wore the first time around, but we could also be talking about the return of the 1490s era trend of wearing a choker. So we keep wearing them, and they're constantly being reinvented, and they're constantly being worn in new ways. But they tell something about us, who we are as human beings, and they also tell something about our personal history as well. I chose this illustration, it's from my blog called My Closet and Sketches, and I chose it because a lot of the items pictured here are things that I procured from my grandmother's closet. So we're talking about the handbag, we're talking about the jacket, we're talking about the blouse, we're talking about the shoe clips that went on top of the shoes that you don't really see that much anymore, but they're like a fun little shoe update thing. And all of these things were something that my grandmother wore one way, and when they came to me and I interpreted them, they became something completely different. And now I want to take a brief moment with this idea in mind about how accessories can tell our story of human beings to give you a short history of the handbag. Because the handbag can actually tell a story of how women were viewed in our culture through its invention and its use. Bloop, 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 bloop. And put that right here. So we can look at handbags and we can look at the history of the purse, and we can actually tell a story about how women used handbags, how we used purses, and how society viewed women and how we valued them. So to begin with, all early indigenous cultures carried some kind of pouch. And most of them were made from animal skin. And then when we get to the Greek and Roman period, on the left we have a Roman fertility goddess. Her name is Uberitas, and in her hand she's holding a purse, which is filled with seeds. Hint one. And in Roman wedding rituals, a purse would be given, and it would be filled with seeds, it would be filled with coins, and it was this literal representation of fertility, of the womb producing. And then on the right we have an image of Cupid, and he is holding a purse filled with coins, and he also is pictured with another symbol of abundance, which is the cornucopia, the horn of plenty. And at this time, people would carry pouches, these purses, men and women, and the size of your pouch was also a symbol of your status in society. So if you had a small pouch, that meant that you didn't have to carry that much because someone else who was working below you probably had to do all of the heavy lifting for you. And I think that actually still relates today when you see a picture, for instance, of a celebrity walking through an airport and they're only carrying their cell phone. What that says is someone else is doing all the heavy lifting for them. And so men and women had these pouches, they hung from their belts, and pretty soon on, people began to realize that this was not that great of an idea, because it was really easy for someone to steal all their stuff with just a simple goodbye to your pouch hanging from your belt there. And what happened for both men and women is that the pouch went into the body, it went into the clothes. And this is what we think of as a pocket. And for women, even though this pouch goes inside, it's in these folds, it's in the secret places hidden under sumptuous length of material reached by an opening in the skirt. So there's still very much this idea of this pouch, this belonging, these pockets, having some relation to a woman's fertility, to a woman's sexuality, to a woman's gender. And if you look at this very disturbing cartoon from the 1800s, indispensable here is referred to as it was a pouch, and this is an image of a man looking for a woman's lost purse by reaching out her skirt. Here's another really savory quote about this. One pickpocket boasted in 1751, "My chief dexterity was in robbing the ladies. There is a peculiar delicacy required in whipping one's hand up a lady's petticoats and carrying off her pockets." I can still get the EBGBs every time I read that. And the fashion at the time actually, and I skipped a lot of history here, we're talking now about the late 1700s, but the fashion at this time actually kept going back to the Greek and Roman times, and women would wear these long draped muslin dresses. And in those dresses, you could see the outline of their pocket. And it was very risque, and it was very scandalous at the time to be able to see the outline of a woman's pocket in her dress without actually knowing what was inside. And this is the first VPL. The first visible panty line was the first visible pocket line. And as styles changed, women decided that they didn't want to just have pockets, they also wanted to carry their belongings in something that wasn't just a pocket. And we get to what we call the reticule. And literally the reticule was basically a pocket with a string attached. It was just a piece of fabric that would either hang from the wrist or from the hands. And this is the first example of underwear being worn as outerwear. Because there was this connotation of the pocket and of the purse being associated with a woman's sexuality, one writer actually said that wearing this reticule out in public was like a woman lifting up her skirt to show her underwear. Which today, in this day and age, is shocking to us, but we have to ask the question, what does this say about society at the time and how they felt about women? Which is that you carry something in your hand, but you might not know what's inside. And so women were to be seen, but not understood. They were to be for display, but also completely hidden. And what was inside these reticules? There was rouge, powder, maybe a fan, maybe some calling cards. I am talking about the middle class here that had the ability to make calls instead of working all the time. But there wasn't money, there wasn't change, there wasn't a credit card. It was just about a woman carrying these objects that she was allowed to carry. And here's another great example of this fashion of the time. This woman is carrying a reticule in her hand, but also look at the rest of her accessories. She's wearing this huge bonnet, this huge bow, a very constricting thing around her neck. And the physical representation of what these items are says something about how women were viewed at this time, because now we're talking about the Industrial Revolution. And at this time, the sphere of men and women's work really began to separate. So men were out in the workforce, and women were at home. And women wore things that made them the perfect foil to this masculine archetype. So a man was working, he was strong, he was active, and a woman was silent and still and not listened to and not understood and pretty much immobile. And this all changed with the advent of travel. And the bag that changed that was the carpet bag. And as trains became a popular mode of transportation, the carpet bag was originally used by men, but it was perfected by a woman, Mary Poppins. Perfect example. And a carpet bag is great because you can put all your stuff in it, and then if you're on a long overnight train, you can take all your stuff out and then use it as a blanket. And this begins to open up borders for everyone, for men and women. And once again, I'm talking about the middle class. But people began to be able to expand their mind and expand what they could see. And this also meant that women began to see and understand that they needed to advocate for rights for themselves. So we're talking about the right to vote. We're talking about the right to drive. We're talking about the right to literally have your own money, to have your own financial autonomy. And so the reticule becomes the handbag in the early 20th century. So the handbag is actually a really new invention. It happened in the 20th century. And what makes it so profound as it relates to this financial autonomy is that instead of carrying literally a pocket that has strings attached to it, all of a sudden you have something that snaps shut, that you have a holdover and that gives protection over your money. It's kind of like a wacky thing to think about now that this is so profound, but at the time, being able to carry a handbag meant that a woman then could have her own purchasing power. But not everyone was happy with handbags, and in fact, the suffragettes and some of the early American feminists used the comparison between a handbag and men's pockets to talk about the disparity between sexual rights and social rights. These women said, yeah, it's a handbag, but you can't fit anything in it. You can't put what you can in a handbag, what you would be able to put in pockets. And actually some writers at the time imagined this world where Amazonian women roamed the earth with outfits that were covered in pockets, which I feel like some of us might still to this day want an outfit like that that's just covered in pockets. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and by a little bit I mean a lot, but the handbag still throughout the rest of the 20th century became this representation of what a woman was and what her value was worth. If we jump to the 1950s, a girl became a woman when she got her first good handbag. And here is a wonderful photo illustration of the proper way to wear a handbag. The whole look is ruined if you're slouching, clearly. And once again, it's amazing to think about the fact that a woman's worth and who she is related to her handbag. Jump ahead another decade and we go into the swinging 60s, and here the shoulder bag makes a comeback. And you can think about a shoulder bag literally swinging from a shoulder. But what's so profound about a shoulder bag is that suddenly it frees up the hands so that a woman could hug in public, she could dance, she could live her life, she could double fist drink, she could literally do whatever she wanted. And this is a really profound statement that lines up very well with some of the revolution that women had in the 1960s. And now I'm here to say, jumping forward to today, that the most revolutionary accessory I could tell any of you to wear is the Fanny Pack. And you may have heard it here first, or you may have already known this, but Fanny Packs are actually very in vogue right now, and there are a lot of very chic Fanny Packs to be found. Mine is leather and it's from Coach, so thank you very much. But what's so amazing about the Fanny Pack is not only does it afford someone a hands-free lifestyle, but it also is gender neutral. So you can identify as any gender and wear a Fanny Pack and still look great, as everyone here shows us. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of this understanding of how accessories can tell us about who we are as human beings. And I think what's so powerful about accessories is that we don't need to wear them, so they become something that has more meaning to us than, oh, I just had to put on this shirt today because people are supposed to wear shirts in public. So last but not least, accessories are spikes for the uniform. And I'm not here necessarily saying that one should wear a uniform, but although if you do, more power to you. But I am encouraging those that are here to identify what clothes you feel comfortable in. And I don't think it has to be something totally out there. I, myself, kind of stick to a formula that's straight leg jeans, high-waisted skirts, I like a dress, and I always love a good jacket. And I know what colors I like, so I sort of mix within those parameters, but I can be wearing a similar outfit 3 days in a row, and by simply switching out the accessories, it becomes something completely different. And in the work that I do as a closet consultant, so I help people go through their closets, I style them, I organize it, my goal is never about buying new things. My goal is always to get someone to use accessories and use their clothes in new ways that give them joy for something that they already own. So this previously loved stuff, or the stuff that you've already found and incorporated into your life, I'm here to show you how you can use it in new ways.
Here we
flashback. So as I was working on this book, all of this research that I did, I quickly realized that this was definitely going to be my most personal book, and it also was going to take the most work, which it definitely did. And I have a new appreciation now looking at some of my school photos, actually all of my school photos. Every single one of them, I have a different parure or set. Pictured in the middle is a very classic parure. But every single photo tells a different story about who I was in that moment and what that time was like for me. So on the left, I believe this is first grade. I made the necklace. I have clip-on earrings because I wasn't allowed to get my ears pierced yet, and that's because I had to get to book 4 in my Suzuki violin in order to get my ears pierced. My parents definitely knew how to bribe me there. They knew that accessories were the way to go. So on the right, of course, is when I did finally get my ears pierced, pre-braces, but that's neither here nor there. And as I began to think about me and my personal relationship with accessories, I started to go through some old photos, and I realized that it was actually more of a challenge for me to find a photo where I wasn't accessorized. So, we got the headband, we have the bracelets, we have the necklaces. This is a still from a home video. That is, an incredible job of necklace layering that went all the way up to the head, and that is in the background a purse as well. And I'm serious, it was just non-stop accessorizing. And as you can tell, I got a big kick out of it then, just as I do now. I mean, it's seriously non-stop. I put a brooch on my sweatshirt, and I was 3. So I think that gives me a little bit of, I think it makes it appropriate that I'm standing here in front of you today talking about accessories. So when it became time to actually get to work on the book, I want you to understand that when you look at the book, whether you've seen it already or not, hopefully it looks effortless to you, but it was the last thing from effortless. Each individual drawing and each individual item had truly 20 to 30 decisions that went into it beforehand. And since I used all of my own clothes and accessories, a lot of which I had inherited from my mom or my grandmother or had passed down from some former closet clients, so began the work of me making a mess in my closet literally every day. And so I took I was just going wild in there, okay, so today we're gonna think about accessorizing animal prints. Let's bring all my animal prints onto my bed and make a bunch of outfits from them. So this is only truly a very, very, very small smattering of the looks that I did, but as you can see, I was always having a good time. A really, really, really good time. Deadlines are a real challenge. And so then, before I even got to this point, I had spent almost a year just accumulating images that inspired me. And so I would take screenshots of Instagram, I would Pinterest, I pulled things out of catalogs and magazines, and then I put them into Dropbox folders and just organize them in crazy ways. So thick belts, thin belts, how to wear something to make a positive impression. This is some of the inspiration images that I use for one of my favorite looks, which is how to accessorize a loungewear look. You can sort of see the theme by looking at it, but Instagram, I'll never forget when Beyonce's pregnancy announcement came out, I was like, this is the first day of the rest of my life. And then I myself, obviously, once again, dressed the part. This is from my house in Washington, D.C., and this became look number 46, the Odalisque, how to accessorize loungewear. And hopefully you can see some of the things, this brooch in between the breasts is that one on the far left. Rihanna's pose up there at the top was a clear mode of inspiration for this pose. And now here's another example of a faux fur stole. So once again, I was screenshotting Instagram, I was pulling things out of magazine. I have a very, very large collection of binders with just a bunch of stuff in there. And then I also had a huge file that was just for poses. So as you can see, this pose from the J. Crew catalog, which has very good poses in case anyone ever needs that, became this pose. And you might also be able to tell that I haven't yet found the perfect faux fur stole for my own life, so I'm pinch hitting here with a scarf, which also made an appearance here. So much fun. I really thought I was going to be sharing these pictures when I was taking them. And that is the hood from my winter parka, so I had to make it work. But when you commit these things into your mind and then you see that they became this page, this Speak Easy Shimmy. So that is just a small example of all of the work that went into this, and hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding of how much went into it, basically. So now, without further ado, I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways to wear accessories from the book. And once again, I want to repeat that these are not about buying new things. This is about using the accessories that you already own in new ways. And also, I wanted to show you that these drawings are real life items. So, to begin with, I'm going to hold this closer a little bit. Let us say that you were given or inherited a necklace maybe that is very pretty but maybe is not your style. Simply bring a ribbon through the back and you place it at the front on the crown of your head and then tie it in the back and you have yourself a headband. Voila, it's a headband. I think this would be a really great look to wear to a wedding if you were bridesmaids or something like that, but just, why buy something new when you can use it already with what you already have? I'm going to sort of move my way down the body. Up next are layering necklaces, and this is actually truly one of my favorite tips from the book. I think that layering necklaces, especially if you might have a certain, maybe a pearl necklace or a diamond necklace, if you're lucky, sometimes those things feel a little dressed up on their own. By adding more necklaces to them, you can actually bring it sort of back down to earth and make it feel more wearable. And so sometimes layering becomes a little bit of an issue. So you can literally mix any type of metals, you can mix any type of weights. I have a really great time in my closet maybe doing this with some of my lighter chains. But instead of clasping it to the necklace itself, you clasp it to the opposite one. And then if you want to double wrap it, you can double wrap it like that. Or if you want to wear it long, suddenly you have a new necklace by combining two together. And in fact, here's an even better genius idea that's so fresh and so new I didn't even get to add it to the book. But not only can you do this with necklaces, you can also do it with bracelets. And the necklace that I'm wearing right now is 3 bracelets combined. Yeah, isn't that cool? I've actually been wearing this like a lot. So you could do 3 bracelets like this. You could combine 2 bracelets and wear them more as a choker. But this is a really great opportunity to have fun with those necklaces that are just sitting in your wardrobe that maybe you haven't used in a long time. And it also makes it easier to layer them because you're not worrying about it all on top of the back of your neck. And now, even more so relating to this is the very ubiquitous charm bracelet. And I find that charm bracelets are kind of hard to wear because they're hanging everywhere and it gets in the way and I'm afraid I'm going to break it. Here is another chain. This is actually a watch fob chain, which was, I think, maybe my great uncle's. And once again, same rule. just clipping this to either side of the charm bracelet. Now, I actually think this better serves a charm bracelet because you can actually see it. And if you wanted it to be a different length, oh, please don't, okay. If you wanted this to be shorter, all you would need to do is fold this necklace in half and then just bring it through the chain, the clasp itself, and then you could have a shorter length. So that's one of my favorite tips. I just love that one so much. And once again, you don't need to worry about mixing metals. This is gold and silver, and I think they look just great together. So if I say it looks just great, then it looks just great. Now, these are actually truly one of my favorite tips, and this is about combining jewelry with a scarf. So beginning with the look on the left, I just chose one scarf and I'm going to do all of these on one. Let's say that you have a ring that is too big for any of your fingers, which I do. So you'll take the ring, simply pull the scarf through the ring hole. Is that the right word? And if the scarf is the right length, you could simply let it hang like this, or you can start to play with it, maybe bring it back around and tie it. But now you have this beautiful focus on something that you don't normally wear, and now it's this fun process of, oh, well, my ring is turquoise. What scarf should it go with? And I really do love turquoise and orange together. Now, moving right along, say you have a pendant from a necklace that you may not wear that often. One of my favorite things to do is to actually keep a set of needle nose pliers near my necklaces. And this is not a tip for your really nice stuff, of course. But all I did was take this pendant off of its chain and I added a bigger jump ring. And now I'm going to pull the scarf through the jump ring. Oh, don't get stuck on me now. There we go. And suddenly, I have the world's cutest necklace on. So this is a great thing to use for maybe a bigger pendant that feels maybe like it's a little bit too costumey. By putting it on a scarf, you have a completely new look. And now last but not least, my favorite jewelry item is the brooch, of which I have quite a lot. And a brooch with a scarf, I think, is just a match made in heaven. So you can definitely play with what kind of scarf tie you want to use for a brooch. Maybe you open up your 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf book to get some inspiration. Also for sale. So this time I'm just going to loosely put 2 wraps around my neck with this, and then I'm going to bring the brooch through. I'm going to fasten it, and then if you want to keep it steady, you could lightly affix it to whatever is beneath it. And now you have the perfect canvas to show off the brooch that you maybe sorry, I usually get it right, and for some reason this time I didn't. It's a brooch. Now you can wear it and know how to pronounce it as well. Now moving down the body, we're talking now about a belt, and this belt is in fact the belt I'm wearing now. I got it in the Old Navy men's department when I was in high school, and my other favorite tool is a leather hole punch. You don't have to get one of these. You definitely could just go to your cobbler and they could do this. But say you have a belt which is just for your hips, by adding more holes, you can make it work double duty and it can go around your waist. And this particular belt tuck is what I believe to be the secret of every style star, because it truly does make it look like you're wearing something that it might be too big, but you made it look like that on purpose. And so this belt, you can see there's a lot of holes on here. Thank you. And so I have an extremely long tail if I just were to leave it like this. And so I'm going to take the tail, I'm going to bring it up through the belt, and now I've created a hole here, and I'm simply tail back through, adjust it, zhuzh it, as I like to say, and there you go. Here we go. Voila. And another great belt idea is just doubling them up. And these are both these belts. We have a nice stud belt, and we have a nice chain belt. But let's say you're just wearing a really simple outfit that's just a black dress. Why not put on 2 belts? Because all of a sudden it says, oh, I thought about what I'm gonna wear and I'm having a good time today. I'm having a good time wearing accessories, which is truly what I think when you put your time into your accessories, it communicates this joy that you have with yourself and how you want to convey yourself to the world. Because whether we want to participate or not, people will judge us for what we're wearing. And so what we want to say about that, there's power in us deciding, oh, I'm gonna say, I'm really fun because I picked out 2 belts today, or I'm really smart and I got a weather hole puncher and look at my belt now. Carrying on with the reusing theme, if you have a chain link belt, suddenly it becomes a necklace by simply just wrapping it once. And I think this is a really fun way that you could do something that kind of, if you're wearing a very simple outfit, it just adds that extra bit of sparkle. Now last but not least, this one is in fact from my first book, 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf, but it is one of my favorite ways to customize a bag that you may already own so that it becomes something totally new. So step 1, locate a handbag. This one does have a flap. I don't think it's totally necessary, but I think it is better served by having a flap. And then you're going to find the right scarf for your look. I think a square silk scarf is one of the best ways to do that, but you're gonna fold it on the diagonal so that it creates a triangle. And now with the long side of this on the top, I'm going to bring it around the back, like so. And now, as if I were wrapping a sandwich or an envelope or wrapping a present, I'm gonna bring one side around like this and tuck it in. And then the other, tuck it in. And now we have this last flap at the end here, so I'm gonna bring that forward. It's easier if you do it when it's laying down. And then maybe if you want to secure it a little bit, you can grab one of these and bring it together in the back underneath so it's hidden. But now, look at how cute that is. I just love it. I just think it's like the cutest thing ever. Now I have this clutch that matches a look in a completely new and different way. So hopefully you got a little bit of inspiration by seeing how I use some of my own items in new and different ways. And last but not least, thank you so much for coming. It has been such a pleasure to be here today, and since this is sort of the first celebration of this book coming out, it means a lot to me to be here in Ann Arbor. I finished it here in Ann Arbor, and so to be here with all of you, some of you I know and some of you that I don't, it just means a lot, and I really appreciate it. And so now, if anyone has any questions, I will open up the floor for that, and if not, thank you so much for coming, and I'll be here signing books in the front. So, thank you.